so I can have that ready to go for people. And then I'm going to make sure that this gets out to that streaming part. I know you think that's weird. Again, if you don't feel comfortable with that, just make sure, you can stop your video. Make sure your name's on there so your teachers know. 6th grade fingerprints 4/23/20. All right, we're going to go live there. I did have a couple people in there yesterday. Just a reminder to those of you, if you are in there and you do use the chat function, remember it will show up, just as an FYI, okay? So otherwise, we're doing good. I'm gonna make sure that that's not on and I'm not getting feedback. Again, you guys are muted, not because I don't like you guys. It's not that I don't like you guys. It's, like I've always said, it's a feedback issue. I just had a Zoom meeting last night with my family, not my direct family, but my extended family. We were on 2 different computers in the house. You get that weird delay and you get a lot of feedback and it's kind of weird. If you don't have cornstarch, just try the chalk, okay? If you don't have cornstarch, just try the chalk, it'll work. Or try a chalk and baby powder combo. It's okay. The only reason cornstarch is there, it adds a little bit of thickness to it, a little bit of heft to that powder so it sticks better. It may work with just the sidewalk chalk, okay? It might work with just that. It's okay. I'm gonna show you a few other options. Remember, when we go doing these science things, guys, it doesn't matter what we have. We learned this yesterday with our 5th graders and doing seed germination. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, okay? It doesn't matter if it's perfect. Science is just going by what you've got around you and making it work. And the other reason why is I'm just doing things that you guys can do at home. Try it. If it doesn't work out, great. Try something different. Okay, if you have a whole bunch of makeup and you have a bunch of just that simple dry powder or blush, try using that. There's a lot of things you can use. There's no right way to do this. So we're going to look today at one that I really like to do, which is fingerprints. So we're going to kind of do some CSI stuff. We're going to do fingerprinting. We did DNA. We're going to kind of jump a few different directions. So usually we do this in 6th grade. We do a few weeks of some forensics type things. We do fingerprints, we do mystery powders, we do all sorts of fun things like that. So what we're looking at in fingerprints is that they're all really different. We all know that we have fingerprints, but the fact that they are all different from each other is what gives us what we call variation. It's a different version of the same thing. So in fact, every single one of us as a human being, we are all variants. We are all a variation on the same thing. 10 fingers, 10 toes for the most part, 2 eyes, and ears, and a mouth, and a nose, and head, and shoulders, knees, and toes. But they're just all put together differently, okay? And when we study this, the study of how things get passed on from generation to generation, we call genetics, okay? Gene, okay? What controls our characteristics, which we kind of learned last week is in our DNA, little chunks of DNAs. So if I had a book nearby, actually I have, oh yes, I've got a great one for you. Ah, yes, the stuff my wife loves to teach. So if I have this calculus book right here, okay, and this was the instruction book on how to put you together, right? Every single page has instructions on how to do something. Each chapter is a little bit different. And when we study how those things get passed on from generation to generation, or if we study how flower color gets passed from generation to generation, or why we say certain seeds, like in the fields, okay, the ones that produce the most corn, that's genetics. It's how we check that. It's kind of what they're doing right now with the testing and antibodies a little bit, okay? Some people don't have it as much, some do. And then when we look at how things are passed on, we know that our genes tell us what we look like and what certain characteristics we have. Now, some of you will ask, is your behavior genetic? And the answer is maybe, okay? There are some characteristics that they have found that can be passed from generation to generation. There's some things. A lot of it deals with brain chemistry, which can lead to addictive personalities. Some people are prone to drug and alcohol addiction more than others. And some of it runs in families. Some of that is genetic, but some of it is also the environment you're raised in. Because what they've also shown is they've shown identical twins that were split up and were raised in different households with the same basic genetic information in different households kind of have the same similarities, but not really. We don't know a whole lot about those things, if that makes sense. Really, who you are is more shaped with how you grow up. If we put you in a different situation, would you probably grow up differently and have different experiences? More than likely, okay? And so when we study crime scenes, we're studying what is known as forensics. Right now with the COVID-19 that's going around, you're seeing a lot of forensic science going on, but it's not a crime scene. They're trying to figure out where the spread goes from, okay? Who has it, who were they in contact with, and how do they know who to contact if they've been, exposed, okay? So when we collect fingerprints, there's 3 different types of prints that we can get. Number one, it's the patent fingerprint is the one that they put on file, okay? For most teachers and government, so for most government employees, you have to have your fingerprints on record. If you're committed of a crime or any of those things, you have to be fingerprinted. Your fingerprints go on record. They keep them in a database just so they can run it against people. The tough part is fingerprints are not a very super reliable way of identifying people because you can wear your fingerprints down. The only reason I know this is because between myself and my wife, we both teach. My fingerprints are really nice. They'll come out easily. My wife had to spend almost, I think, an hour with the sheriff's office to both scan it and try to get it with ink. And they couldn't get good fingerprints because hers just are not they're not pronounced. They don't show up very easily. You can't see them very easy. So it was really frustrating, okay? The patents are what we compare things to. It's like having the answers in the book. You know what the right answer is. This is what we're comparing to. The other 2 that we look at when we collect them are called plastic impressions or plastic fingerprints. Those are surface impressions. They're obvious. It's like all the times when you're a little kid and they pour wet concrete and you put your hand in it. The Hollywood Walk of Fame, where they put their hands in the wet concrete and they sign their name, that's a plastic fingerprint or plastic impression, okay? Those are all the things that we do. Really simple. I can actually tell you there's a slab of concrete in the house that I bought, okay? I bought my grandparents' old house. One of the slabs of concrete actually has, I think, mine and a few of my other cousins' footprints when they poured it originally. It's still there. Kind of cool, all right? Then the other one that we look at, and the ones that you see them show up on CSI that they always do with their fancy brushes, is what are called latent fingerprints. These are the hidden surface fingerprints. And the best way to find them is if you were to look at my phone. And if I tilt it at the right angle, you can see latent fingerprints. If I held it like this, you can't see it. But if I tilt it at the right angle, you can see fingerprints on there. That is where you're going to remove the fingerprints from the surface, okay? The main types of fingerprints that we see fall into 3 categories, okay? The most common is the loop. And then the other couple are whorls and arches. But if you look at it, whorls is on one side, arches on the other. The loop actually fits kind of in between. It's kind of a hybrid of both if you look at it. So look at the arch real quick. Look at the whorls real quick. And see how the loop is kind of somewhere in between the 2. A lot of people will have loops, okay? I know my fingerprints because I can look at them. My fingerprints are weird, and it's what makes us uniquely different. I can tell you that, if I recall correctly, all of my fingers, except I think for my pointer finger, and I think it's this one. I think it's this one, my right finger, index finger. It's an arch. All the rest of mine are loops, I think. Or maybe both of my pointer fingers are arches. It's weird. So what you're going to do is you can fingerprint yourself. You can fingerprint others. I'm going to demonstrate how to do this so you have an idea. Sound good? So the first thing is we need to make a print and then dust it. But we don't need a whole lot of dust. The second step is to lift it. And then the final step is to put it on a card. Now, whenever you watch them on CSI, if you've ever watched that, it's probably way before you guys. Okay, it was a great thing, really big show. They had these little things where they used a film strip and then they kind of put it up against it and then they close it and it's sealed. Fairly similar to what they do. So this can be a little tricky. I'll show you how to do this. I'm going to go through it fairly slowly. Just kind of follow along. I'm going to show you how to mix the powder. I'm going to show you how to make some fingerprints, how to get the best fingerprints, hugest, classiest, no, I'm kidding, but the best fingerprints you can get, all right? I'm going to turn the overhead light on here. Nice thing about this old house is they have these little overhead lights, all right? Mr. Floth is yelling at Freeman, kids, turn on your screen now with an exclamation point, double exclamation point, all right? Otherwise you're going to, get in trouble or something. Okay. Everybody see that okay? Let me move my camera here real quick. I'm going to move a few things around. The cardboard table and all of your wife's stuff and all of her teaching stuff and my stuff, it's kind of a disaster. All right. So a little bit better, guys, a little bit better. Lighting. All right. If you have any issues, let me know. I'm going to try, this is a little bit more painted. I'm going to try a couple different surfaces. I like, this is a kind of a brushed thick aluminum. Aluminum works really well to pull off of. Countertops would work better because it's easy clean. So I've got this cornstarch here, just a little bit, all right? And then I've got some ground up orange sidewalk chalk. I would choose a fairly bright color. Doesn't matter what. I just happened to find a small piece of broken orange chalk, okay? I'm trying to do this without making much of a mess. The only problem with this is it's a very fine powder. I'm gonna leave a little bit there. So I'm gonna shake it up. Look at how fancy I did this. Whoa, powder intensifies, okay? So I've got this kind of 50-50 powder mix. Now, to do the best I can with this, you're gonna think this is weird, but to do the best to get the most lift of your fingerprint, to get the most lift for your fingerprint, what you want to do is get as much oil on here as you can. Don't wash your hands to lift prints. The best place to get enough oil for your fingerprint, it's going to seem weird, is right here on the bridge of your nose. There's a lot of oil glands right there. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to take and rub and get your finger really oily and gross. Right there. Oh, man, right there. I can feel how oily that is. Okay. Definitely need some pore lift there. Okay. So I've got my finger nice and oily, and you can see it's really shiny. If it's shiny, you've got enough natural oils on you. Now, I'm going to do this on a couple places. I'm going to use this surface and this surface. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my middle finger over here too. Okay. Just so we have two different surfaces to see how well it works. I just want to see. So I'm going to put my middle finger here. I'm just going to press it down and try to get it as squished as I can. Oh, perfect. Can you kind of see it? Oh, there's a glare. Darn. You can kind of see where it is. Kind of. It's hard to, I can see it on my end. It's just the lighting is tough here. And then this end, I'm going to try right here. So I'm going to try this surface too. Okay. We'll see how well they work. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this. Yeah, it's an LOL surprise one. Somebody decided it was a great idea to give a 3-year-old some of those adhesive and flocking powder stuff. All right, I'm going to take my brush. I'm just going to dip it gently in here, and I'm going to tap it on my surface, and then just kind of gently tap it on there, and then brush away the excess. as much as I can. Now notice I'm using a very gentle touch. Can everybody see now where my fingerprint is? Now you can see the outline, can't you? Okay. It's kind of hard with this orange to make it show up really well. I should have chose a darker color. You notice you don't need a ton of powder. I'm just brushing it off gently so I get the excess off of there. I'm going to move it out of the way too. All right, try that. Now, my next step, this is one if we're actually in a classroom, this one goes, you need more time to do this. I'm going to grab a piece of huge packing tape, and this is usually where I hit the struggle bus. Okay, I'm going to press it down. I'm going to start outside of it. I'm going to press flat against it, press it down, and then I'm going to lift it back up. And then I'm actually going to place it on my index card. And we'll see what we can see. Turn that light off. Let's see what we can see. Can we actually see anything? This is not focusing very well today. I'm sorry, guys. Boy, that didn't turn out at all. Well, you can kind of see it. It's really, 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 really faint. It's there. It's really faint. Let me try another one. You know what? Let's try this. See, failure is an option in science. Okay, let's see if I can get this one. Let's try this stuff. I don't even remember where I put that. Well, that's not even working very well. Let's try this. Let's try it up here. See if this works better. Boy, that's not working at all. Awesome. That is totally failing. Beautiful. So this stuff obviously doesn't work very well. Nailed it. Nailed it. Perfectly failure. Let's do this. Let's try this. Let's mix it with some score. Yeah, it did not work. It's not easy to make this work. It is really, really tricky. It's hard to make it show up too. Sorry, teachers. I'm really trying to make this show up. Let's see if I can get this one. Now you can see where my fingerprint is pretty well. Okay. Let's try another one. Try to do another one. I'll try to lift a couple. I always do really bad with this. Matt is really good at this. Here's my other one. Try putting this here. Now, if I had actual charcoal powder, which is what we use, that's great. I would not suggest using orange. Orange does not seem to be showing up very well. But, I mean, I've got the idea here that it's working. And usually, man, boy, this is not my day. This is why I teach it, but I don't always do it because I don't have the right technique. I might need to leave a little bit more powder on there. It's better. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Not real well. I might actually need to leave more powder on there. So obviously you can see I am failing at this miserably, which is great to know that I am a total disaster and failure at this, but that you can actually get it to work. Let me try this black surface. See if I can do this without getting yelled at too bad. Okay, so there's my fingerprint right there. Let's see if I can get it to show up on a black surface. It kind of is there, I think. Oh, it was. It's kind of sticking. Not really. Boy, this is not my day. Today is not my day. Woo, I am, oh, there, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see where my fingerprint is, right? Kind of right here. It's just not working for me today. And that's kind of the way it goes sometimes. This is a very, very tricky one to get it to work. I don't know if a different brush would work better. Let me try this one. That's a little bit more. There we go. All right, I'm going to brush this away. I'm going to see if I can actually collect this one. See what I can do. We'll see if I hit failures, Bird. Oh, it's just so faint. The color of this powder is just so light, guys. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a really dark color. It works. I can see it. You just need a really, really, really dark chalk color. So your best bet is going to be to use something like a red or a blue or something like that. I'm going to see if I can go find a red or a blue real quick. Just give it a shot, guys. Those of you who are doing it, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to go grind up a little bit more powder. I'm going to turn my video off real quick. I'm going to see if I can grab another piece of chalk and see if I can make it work. A couple other things you could do. You could use an ink pad. That would work. That's always one way to do it, to roll your fingers. You could also do the most old school way, which is draw a square, which I know that this works pretty well. Let me show you one other way. It's like the old school way we did this. And make a nice dark square of graphite from your pencil lead. Let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, so then I can do this. I've got a dark square here. I'm going to take this finger, I'm going to rub it in here, make a mess. And now you can see my fingerprint. I don't know why this is not focusing today. And then maybe down on this empty spot. If you really roll it correctly, you start on an edge, press, and pick straight up. And so that way, you can kind of see it. The only tricky part is I'm trying to get it as best as I can. But man, they are just so faint. Okay, they don't show up very dark unless you use like super, super dark ink or super, super duper soak it. Okay, so that worked out pretty good. Let's see if I can roll my pointer finger. All right, if you have a pencil, do it that way. That works. You just need a whole lot of it. Press and roll, and notice it's just really, really faint. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get some different chalk here real quick. Actually, I can go ahead and stop all that streaming stuff because really it's now up to